Hello, guys, and welcome back. It's so good to have you here with me again today. And I'm really excited for this episode because I've seen the impact firsthand in my life and in so many other business owners' life of leaning into fear and leaning into that fear of change and kind of working through it and not allowing that to keep you staying stuck in life and in business. And so today we're going to be talking about that in detail, and we're going to be talking about, what if that thing that's keeping you stuck in your jewelry business isn't a lack of time, money, or the right strategy, which is what so many people believe, but sometimes that's not actually it. Your biggest thing holding you back in your business and making you feel stuck may be your fear of change, your fear of stepping into something new, your fear of committing to something bigger, your fear of investing in yourself and your jewelry business or hiring team members, because deep down there is a part of you that wonders, what if it doesn't work? And that fear is so valid, and we're going to dive into that together. So if you've ever felt resistance to making a big move, whether it's joining a program like the Jewelry Business Academy, raising your prices, or going full-time in your jewelry business, this episode is for you, because honestly, staying stuck is way scarier than change, and we're going to be diving into that together today. So the reason that change feels so uncomfortable is, firstly, your brain is wired to resist change. So even if something isn't working, our brains prefer the familiar hell versus the uncertainty of an unfamiliar heaven. It's really important that we recognize that, because a lot of business owners will say to themselves, oh, I'm feeling a lot of fear and discomfort around hiring someone, investing in myself, doing this event, whatever it is, launching a new collection. And they tell themselves the story that that feeling of fear and discomfort is a sign that this isn't aligned. And that's not the case. This is just a sign that your brain, which is wired to keep you safe and is wired to keep you in what's familiar, is trying to keep you small. It's trying to keep you in your familiar hell, essentially, or your familiar situation. And the uncertainty of something new, even if it's going to be something better, your brain would rather keep you where you are right now because we know what's working. And so that is the first reason why change feels so uncomfortable. It's literally wired in us, and we have to go against our natural biology to take steps that are uncomfortable, because our body's like, oh my gosh, this is going to really affect me negatively. I just want to stay safe. I'm not interested in growing. I'm not interested in being, living up to my full potential. I just want to stay safe. And what we need to remind ourselves is we are safe. Our brain is just trying to protect us from, in the olden days when, being out there, putting yourself out there, stepping away from what everyone else is doing would put you at a place where you may potentially have been at high risk, but not in the world we're living in today. So keep that in mind. Now, another reason why change feels so uncomfortable is because we all have that fear of failure, that fear of like, oh, what if I hire this employee? Or what if I invest in myself? What if I sign up for this program? What if I launch this new collection and it doesn't work? What if I do these things? What if I make that business pivot and it doesn't work? That fear of failure keeps so many people in the same place because we're so focused on all the things that can go wrong. And let me tell you, if you decide to, for anything in life, write down all the things that could go wrong and all the ways you could fail, you'll find them. You'll find a ton of reasons why you could fail, and that fear is very valid. But we want to rewire our brains, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes. The third reason why change feels so uncomfortable is that a lot of people have a fear of success and they don't realize it. It's unconscious. And so it's one of those things where it's like they're unconsciously holding themselves back because that fear of like, well, what if I actually get what I want and I can't handle it? What if I actually get more sales and people start returning things? What if I actually get more visibility and people don't like me? What if I actually get into more stores and then there's a problem shipping orders? What if I get what I want and I can't handle it? That fear of success is very valid. I've seen this happen to so many people. I've been there, I've experienced it. And it's not something that we want to allow to stop us from going and doing the thing. Now, the fourth is really interesting because not a lot of people really think this through. But that fear of going through an identity shift is very real. And so, in any area of life, let's say you decide to move countries or move cities, that change is going to change you as a person. It is going to shift your identity. And that's scary to people. That is scary because it's like, well, what if I make this move and I don't recognize myself anymore? What if I invest in my business and I step into the role of CEO and I don't recognize myself anymore? What if I hire these team members and I start leading better and I start running my business like a business and I don't recognize myself anymore? That is a very unconscious thing that a lot of people fear because, again, we're like, well, people like me as I am. If I start doing these things that are bigger and taking up more space and shifting my identity a little bit in these different ways, what if people don't like me anymore? What if people think I'm doing too much or trying too hard? And so that also keeps people in that place of like, oh, I don't know if I want to make a change here because I don't want to feel uncomfortable. I don't want, anything to change. And so what I want to encourage you to do is to reframe in your mind that change is not the enemy. The enemy is staying the same. Like if you were to ask me my idea of hell, my idea of hell is me being in exactly the same place 1 year from today. Even though where I am in life and business right now, I love it. I'm thriving. And at the same time, I am growing. And to me, the absolute worst thing is being in the exact same place. That's stagnancy. Does that mean I have to move houses or I have to do big things like that? No, but it's constantly growing. It's constantly expanding. So I don't see change as the enemy. I see staying the same as the enemy. I see staying the same as stagnation. And stagnation, I've spoken about this before, but I believe stagnation in life and business leads to depression. And I've been there and it's not a fun time. And the only way to really grow into the business owner that you want to be is by doing things you've never done before. That is so important. You're not going to get to that next level of yourself or your business by continually doing the things that have got you to this stage. And I want to talk a little bit about the real cost of avoiding change in your jewelry business and in life, because firstly, you're going to miss opportunities. That dream jewelry business that you've been thinking of or working on or building for the last few years, that one that's making consistent sales, that has a team underneath you, that runs smoothly, that you feel confident in. That jewelry business is on the other side of the action that you are afraid to take. If you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you'll have listened to some of my guests. I have guests in the early stages of business. I have guests who are much further along. And let me tell you one thing that I've seen consistently with all the very successful jewelry business owners that we've brought on who have multiple six-figure companies, who have a team underneath them. The one thing is that they are embracing opportunities. They are doing what's required even though they're scared, even though there's fear there, even though it's uncomfortable, because they're just focused on the dream. And yeah, they feel the feelings, they feel the fear, and they just keep showing up. And we'll talk a little bit about how to move through that fear of change in a few seconds. But I also want to touch on the second cost of avoiding change. And that is wasted time. Because if nothing changes, where will you be in 6 months' time? Where will you be in 1 year's time? You're going to be feeling frustrated. You're going to feel stagnant. You're going to feel like you're waiting for the right time. And if you are, newsflash, there is never the right time. And one of my dear clients is actually such a great example of this. She really just embraced the fact that there is no right time. I remember her joining the academy a couple of months before she was due to give birth, which a lot of people would say, oh, this is not the right time. And in that time between joining and giving birth to her little one, she made such a huge shift in the way she showed up in her business. She made such a huge shift in the way she ran her business. Her sales increased. She introduced multiple streams of revenue. So when the little one arrived, there was things happening. There was growth. There was expansion. And now she's just building momentum with her little one there. A lot of people would say, oh, that's not the right time. I need to wait till my little one's like 3 years old or 5 years old or whatever it is. Let me tell you, if you look for excuses for why now is not the right time for you to do something in your business or in your life, you will find it, and it's never the right time. The people who are further ahead of you, the people who are doing what it is that you want to do, they're not necessarily better at it than you, but they are just doing it, and they're not making excuses for themselves, because you can find a million excuses. The third cost of avoiding change in your jewelry business is regret. And the number one thing that people regret when they look back on their lives and their businesses, think of 80-year-old you sitting on a bench looking back on your life. Do you think 80-year-old you is looking back on your life and regretting the times that you failed, the times that you made mistakes, the times that you did things even though you were a little nervous or scared? I don't think so. I think the biggest thing that you're looking back and regretting when you're looking back on your life is you're regretting not trying. You're thinking like, oh my gosh, remember how I was obsessed with making jewelry and I really wanted to bring this jewelry business to life, and I wanted a team, and I wanted it to be my main financial revenue stream. I didn't want a job. I wanted to own my time. I wanted to build this beautiful life. And I started and I showed up for a few years, but I kept small. I kept small because I was scared, and I just never quite made it happen because I just didn't really try, or I didn't do this, or I didn't try that. The biggest regret you're going to have in life is not trying, and it's not going to be failing, because let me tell you, everyone who's further ahead of you has simply failed more than you, because you can't fail if you're not trying. So all they're doing is they're doing more, they're trying more than you are. So that's something to keep in mind. And I really want you to reframe how you think about fear, because fear will not go away before you take action. But taking action, feeling the fear and doing it anyway, and taking that action is going to slowly diminish the fear. It shrinks that fear and it builds your confidence. So keep that in mind next time you're feeling fear. And I want to talk a little bit about how to move through that fear of change. Think to yourself about something that right now you're going through in life or business where it's like, oh, I have to hire this team member, or I want to, let's say, for example, you want to join the Jewelry Business Academy, or you're thinking of coming to the retreat, or you're thinking of doing this big wholesale event, or you're thinking of pivoting your business, or you're thinking of cutting half your collection. Those are all big changes. And so when we're moving through that fear of change, first thing I want you to do is recognize the fear for what it is. It is simply your brain trying to keep you safe, but remind yourself that safe isn't where growth happens. You want to ask yourself, what is the worst that could happen? What is the worst that you could happen if you did X, Y, Z, whatever that is? If you hired this person and it didn't work out, what's the worst that could happen? Then you want to ask yourself, what is the best that could happen if you did this, if you embraced this change? And then you want to take small, tolerable steps, and instead of overthinking, just commit to one small action towards that change today. Go and do it today. Let me know. Send me a little DM on Instagram at Robyn Clark Coaching. Let me know that you're actually taking action, because I want all of our podcast listeners to, be listening, tuning in every week and feeling inspired, but actually going and taking action, because we want action takers. We want you making a change because that's how you see results. So think of what that big change is that you're needing to make, or maybe it's a small change. Ask yourself, what's the worst that could happen? Ask yourself, what's the best that could happen? Make the decision to lean into the fear and take action despite the fear, and break down what are the steps I need to make that happen, and just take that first small step today. Instead of overthinking it, just commit to that one first small action. And I want you to also reframe that decision or investment. If you're having to hire someone and you're being like, oh, I have to hire them and I have to pay them, that investment is showing you're committed to this. If you're joining a program, that investment is showing you're committed to this. So whether it's time, money, or energy, investing in your jewelry business is a signal to yourself that you are serious about growing. And let me tell you, when you put time, energy, or money behind one of these things that you're needing to do that you're fearing so much, you're going to show up better for it. You're going to make it work. And so I want to remind you that, as you're navigating how to move through change, it's not always going to feel this scary. You're going to get much better at dealing with these things as you continue to show up time and time again. And that confidence comes after action. So the longer that you wait, the scarier it's going to feel. And the sooner you take the leap, the sooner you prove to yourself that you can handle it. So let's stop putting these things that we want to change on the back burner, because it sort of starts eating away with you. It causes fatigue. It causes anxiety. I know, because I've been there. And let's just embrace taking action, start building confidence, and start proving to ourselves that we can do it. You can handle it. And if it doesn't work out, you can handle that too. And I think when it comes to being like, okay, well, it might not work, it might be great and it might not work, it's always good for us to remind ourselves why staying stuck is even a bigger risk than doing something and it not working. Now, every successful jewelry business owner that you are looking up to, that you're admiring, that you're thinking, wow, this is the dream, I aspire to be like them, know that they felt this fear too. You're not unique in feeling the fears that you feel. So many people before you have felt that way too. And the only difference between you and them is that they didn't let it stop them from showing up, from taking action, from making difficult decisions, from, whatever that was. And if you don't take action, you already know what your future looks like. If you decide not to do this change that you know you're needing to make, and you don't make any change, you know exactly what your future looks like. It looks like more of the same. But if you do take action, you are opening the door to something bigger, something expansive, and remind yourself that you are capable of handling whatever happens. You are capable of making the best of what it is you choose to do. I've seen this time and time again. We have so much more power than we give ourselves credit for, and we can make the best of any situation, whether it's hiring a team member, you can train them properly, you can do feedback sessions, you can make it a really good fit. If you're joining a program like the JBA, investing in a course or making a big move, there's always a way forward, and you're capable of making it the best decision for your business in the way that you show up once you've made that decision. And so, as I said earlier, I want you to take action from this episode. Write down that one big thing that you have been avoiding because of fear, and commit to taking one small step towards it today. And if there's something that you're like, oh my gosh, I need to do this thing and I'm fearful of taking that step, send us a DM, let us know what it is. I'm going to answer some of them, otherwise my team will answer the rest of them, but send us a DM at Robyn Clark Coaching. Let's chat about it. I may create another episode around it if there's one or two topics that come up frequently. And let's make a change. Let's start doing the work. Let's start taking action. And I always want you to ask yourself, what if this does work? What if this is the thing that changes everything for me and for my business? Because you'll be looking back 90 days from now, 6 months from now, 1 year from now, and being so grateful you leant into that fear, took action. And not only that, you'll also be looking and being like, wow, that whole thing that I built up in my mind as some big scary change has just been the best thing for me as a person, the best thing for me as a business owner. And you will look back with so much gratitude that you had the courage to take action even though you were scared. And so if this episode's resonated with you, I do want to encourage you to stop waiting for the perfect time and take that next step in your jewelry business. So whether that's joining the Jewelry Business Academy, raising your prices, or finally owning the fact that you are building something amazing, change is not something to fear. It is something to embrace. It's something to step into. And so for anyone listening, if you are ready to take that step, I'd love to support you inside the JBA. You can head to jewelrybusinessacademy.ca to learn more. But let's make 2025 the year that you stop waiting and you start growing and you lean into the fear and you make hard decisions and you don't let fear hold you back.